3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a makeup artist and a Instagram comedy person.
And friend.
And old mate, Kath, Carlin. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here.
I know, man. It's been a while. I think last time I saw you, I was DJing at a wedding of a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And you were pregnant then.
No, I wasn't. I think that happened that night.
Really?
Yeah, I remember I came to that. We were trying. And I came to that wedding going, I'm not going to drink. And then the tunes, you played nothing but 90s that whole night. And the tunes were so goddamn good. I stayed till close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I think I knew every single word to every single song that you played that night.
But that was because Ben, he loves his 90s.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, good time.
And you did my 30th, and you did my partner's 30th. Yeah,
Jesus.
you've been around the traps.
Was that at the Saint? When was that? Where
Toz's was at the Saint, and mine was somewhere on Chapel Street.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, we've had some history.
Yeah, I can't remember. That was going back a while. All right, let's talk about your story. So you're a makeup artist. We'll talk about how you got into that, but also doing your comedy stuff and also just being a funny individual. Because like when your reels get shared around, people say, oh, do you know that chick? I'm like, yeah, and that's what she's actually like.
I am having, I think, like what we'd call like a low-key midlife crisis, but I am trying to channel it into something more healthy than, like a sports car and drugs.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the funny thing about the internet is like you can use it as a tool and as a creative tool, or you can let it consume you and then fucking hate the thing.
Exactly, yeah. Well, we do have a love-hate relationship, me and the internet, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at my, I put a thing on my phone each day of, how long I can spend on Instagram and TikTok, which is 1 hour. Right. And by 8 a.m. this morning, I was like, oh, I've used it all up. Oh, shit.
But does that include creating content?
No, but I don't create it within the app. I create it outside the app. Oh. But then, you know what? I mean, we all say we don't care, but you post and then you're like, how many people are watching? How many people are sharing? How many people are liking? You can't help.
That's the day and age we unfortunately live in.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, let's talk about your journey, man. I know you grew up in a similar sort of area to me, but let's talk about how you got into doing hair and makeup. I believe it might have been a family kind of hookup.
Yeah, I have nepotism to thank for my career. So basically, when I was in high school, we were, doing like, what are we going to do for careers? And I was like, I want to do makeup. And they were like, well, that's not a job. This was, the early 2000s. They're like, that's not a job. And I'm like...
And you went to a Catholic school?
I did. I went to a Catholic girls' school. And, it wasn't their fault. They were like, oh, so you can do beauty therapy where you're doing facials and stuff. And I was like, no, I want to apply makeup to people and make them pretty. And they're like, well, there's nothing out there for you. But my dad is a film and television director. And he was like, that's a goddamn job. I work with makeup artists every single day. I'll ask them.
Yeah.
So he asked around and found what course I could do, which at the time was a diploma in entertainment makeup. I think they're still there at Vic Uni. And he was like, got me in, or I got myself in, I don't know. Anyway, they chose 16 people a year. I think it's all different now. And I did that course, but during the time of doing that course, we had to have like X amount of work experience hours. And because of who my dad was, I was able to start working at Channel 7 as an 18-year-old.
And that's when the nepotism kicks in.
It does, and they were so nice to me, even though I did not know shit about what I was doing. Because I was Kev's daughter, I got a leg up. Yeah. And pretty soon I realised you need to learn how to do hair as well if you want to make a career out of this in Melbourne. In Melbourne, you need to do hair and makeup.
How does it differ in other places?
I think maybe, it might be different, but in Melbourne, if you want to work in TV, you need the skill of hair and makeup. But other places, like in America, one always does makeup, one always does hair. Okay. Yeah, so...
We're not Hollywood here.
No, we're not. Well, mate, I'm talking the Channel 7 News here. How to dock lambs. Like, let's just calm down. And so anyway, I went and did a hair course and I was able to still work as a makeup artist. And Dad said to me, listen, I can get you a foot in the door, but I can't promise you work. And this is the advice he gave me, and I think it's really good advice. He said, if you do the shit jobs with a good grace, you won't be doing the shit jobs for a long time. So sweep the floor without being asked. Do a coffee run. Go wash everyone's brushes for them. Do whatever it takes, and you will find that people want to work with you. And that's exactly what I did.
Yep.
And also, as a makeup artist, you just have to show up on time. Yeah. And so I got good at it. Like, I think, like I'm still 21 years later, I'm still working. So,
but he probably had that same mentality from the directorial stuff. Like, get there, make sure everybody's doing okay, and eventually they'll ask you to fucking...
Exactly. Well, he started out at Channel 7 pulling cables, and then I don't know what he did. I think then he was floor managing, and then one day the director was sick or something along those lines. It was different back in the early 90s when he was doing it. And they were like, have a go at directing. I think he was working on like Full Frontal or Fast Forward or something back then.
Yep.
And he just worked his way up from there. And that's sort of what I did essentially. So Channel 7 gave me a leg up, and I was lucky enough to be trained by a really talented makeup artist, Barb Cousins. And I got...
Is she a bit of a legend in the scene?
Well, if you look at all the Full Frontal, all the Kath and Kim, she didn't work on Kath and Kim, but she created all the looks for that. Do you remember that big Ray Martin wig?
It was like plastic.
Yeah, that was her. So she created all those looks. So she was she had an eye for it, and she trained me really well, I think. And so then after that, I got good, I got confident. I started working at Channel 9, started working at Channel 10, started working at all the different networks, and ended up having like a really good, really busy career out of it. And then I think when I was like in 2011, my friend Sarah was working for ESPN and Tennis Channel at the Australian Open, and they loved what she did, and they were taking her overseas with them to do... So basically making up the commentators and presenters at the Australian Open. So it'll be like, hi, welcome to the Australian Open, and then they'd be commentating on the match. And then they wanted to take Sarah to do French Open, Wimbledon, and US Open.
The whole tour.
So I was a little tag along. So for a decade, I got flown Paris, London, New York, and worked at all of those events. And got, with ESPN, which was, great. So I didn't, up until COVID, I hadn't had a full Melbourne winter in I don't know how long. And fuck, it was a rude awakening.
Well, that's awesome though, man. And it's great that you could get out of Melbourne and go see the rest of the world on someone else's dollar doing some creative shit.
On a US dollar as well. So I was getting
pay
paid
USD,
yeah.
So this isn't Aussie ESPN, this is US.
US. So it was all like ex-tennis players. If you know anything about tennis, like the talent I was making up was like John McEnroe, Chris Evert, Lindsay Davenport, Martina Navratilova, those sort of people that were all like greats back in the day.
Yeah.
And they liked the way that we did hair and makeup, and they took us overseas.
Did being Australian go a little way with those people?
Oh, they loved the arsies. Loved us. It was great. Yeah, it was really great. And we, when you work that closely with someone, you build a rapport. You're able to work really quickly. Sarah and I worked really well together, and it was just such a dream gig. Mm-hmm. And in between French Open and Wimbledon, there's like 3 weeks. So basically, we get flown over to Paris, and it's like, well, we might as well stay. So often, like Toz, my partner, would come and meet me, and we'd just party around Europe, and then drop me off in London. I'd do Wimbledon, and he'd go on his merry way.
Good times.
Yeah, it was a time.
Come a long way from South Melbourne, man.
Southo, I know. Tell me about it. Not one back there now.
Yeah, you can't leave. 3205.
3205 is where it's at. I actually grew up in 3206, but it's nice to be back in the hood.
3207, 3206, 3205, it's all that sort of
So, that's where I am now.
So, during this whole makeup adventure, you were still, like most people in the early 2000s, partying, hanging around...
Hanging at your house, mate.
Hanging at my place.
Bloody hell.
So, some of these reels that you put up, would they
That
definitely...
were definitely based on you.
Man, 100%. And I'm like, all right, I tell Jess, I'm like, some of those reels give me PTSD. Like, I'm hungover and then you're like eating a cheeseburger. And I'm like, that's just like me walking into the fucking lounge room. And then there's like just random heads there. But anyway.
Well, for anyone listening... Maloney lived with my best friend, Jen.
Who features in a lot of these reels.
Yeah, on Jackson Street, which is the street behind Fitzroy Street, St Kilda. And back in the early 2000s, it was a vibe. And I felt like, because you guys lived behind it, I felt like we were the mayors. Didn't it feel like we would just walk down the street and be like, what's doing? We knew everyone. Like, that was our street. We owned it.
But yeah, you could, even if you wanted to have a night off, you couldn't, because you could still hear the music from Fitzroy Street. And then people would, because we're at the front of that block of flats, I'd be like, all right, I'm staying in tonight. It's Sunday
I remember
night.
you'd say, I'm doing it, I'm staying in. And then we'll be like, well, come on, we got a bottle and we got a 6-pack. So it's up to you.
People would just come down the street. Oi, Maloney. I'm like, fuck off. Like that, because they could just deviate a little bit away.
I'll never forget you spiraling, you're trying to have a week off and then you're like, fuck it, all right, I'm coming out.
People would just turn up. But anyway, a lot of those reels give you PTSD.
Yeah, well, they should, because they're based on you.
Well, there you go. But see, this is the thing, right? When we grew up in that area, when we lived in that area, we didn't have to go find a party. A party found you, because all these people were coming from all over the fucking city to go to St Kilda and Albert Park and Port Melbourne and Paran and where we would just normally be. So even if you went to the local pub for a beer, you got sucked in.
I know it sounds like we're rich because we grew up in that area, but like my parents bought our house in Albert Park for $48,000. So it was just, that's where we grew up, and now it's turned into this really nice area. But it was the party place back then.
Yeah.
And I lived in St Kilda. I've only just moved a month ago, but I lived in St Kilda for 12 and a half years, and it has changed drastically. Like, you wouldn't actually go down Fitzroy Street now.
No. I lived there for about 12 years as well, not far from you, but in East St Kilda, and I saw it change heaps as well. But look, it is what it is. Nothing lasts forever though, man. You know, and
still have a soft
kids
spot.
don't party as much as they did. So
why?
Because
health. Sorry, girls don't wear high heels anymore. I'm like, oh mate, if I was wearing runners, I could have been out for days.
Well, that's the thing. Kids just don't want to go. I think we grew up in a time,
but they vape now, so.
Yeah, well, when we grew up, you wanted to go out because that's how you... And we're talking an age before social media, so everything was different.
Yeah, we were just before social media, so there's not a lot of evidence of that time. Although I busted out that digicam like no one's business.
That was definitely the thing. You get your digital camera, then you get your photos, put them in photo bucket, then you could put them on the fucking MySpace.
Yes.
What a process.
Oh, that's right. It was such a vibe as well.
So yeah, for people that don't get it, that's definitely where the partying was at, and we couldn't avoid it whether we wanted to. So that's where you spent a lot of time doing your best work, and now you reflect on that a lot in your reels.
Yes.
And how did that come to be? You thought, I've just got to put this out there for people to see?
Yeah, okay. So how did it come to be? I think when everyone, when you get to your mid-30s, you start, asking the questions, who am I? What, is this, is this it? Yeah, is this it? Is this all there is? And I remember thinking, I know a lot of people, they've had they go have a baby and they're like, now, well, mate, everything is answered for me. And so we can get into this later, but it was a bit difficult for me to have a baby. But I did eventually have a baby. And I had a really easy pregnancy and an easy birth and an easy baby. And I was like, I just love this little human so much. This is the best. But it's still not the thing. There was something in me. And I really did know at my very core that I had outgrown my life, if that makes sense. So there was nothing wrong. I had a nice partner, nice house, had a great career, had my baby now, blah, blah, blah. But I just was like, this can't be it. And it was waking me up at 3 a.m. Not just spiraling. I'm like, is this all you are now? What, you're about to turn 40 and then what, bleh.
But you've got a job you love.
Yeah, nothing was bad. That was the thing. There was nothing bad, but I was like, I need to grow. And it got to the point when something is ringing in your ear, so it was like the pain of staying the same was actually greater than the pain and the discomfort of growing and putting yourself out there. So then I got deep and I was meditating, journaling, and I'm like, what lights me up? What the fuck lights me up? Because it's not makeup. I like makeup, but it's not makeup. What is it? And then I'm like, journaling and just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I like making people laugh. I like comedy, da-da-da. And then I wrote in a journal, I think I want to be a comedian. Really? And as soon as I wrote it, I scrunched it up and I'm like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And I think a really good indicator of where you need to grow is when you start getting jealous of people. And I was working on the project at the time, and every time a guest came on that was a comedian, I'd start, like, before they even came into makeup, I was angry at them. I was seething. And I'm like, what am I so cross about? And it was because they were doing something that I could see myself. I could see myself in that. Maybe not necessarily stand-up comedy, but I was like, you're doing the thing that I want to do, but I'm just too shit scared. I'm just way too shit scared for it.
Yeah, you weren't ready to jump in the deep end.
No, not at all. Like, I want to be a comedian. Ew, shut up. Don't ever tell anyone that. That's so embarrassing. Go, just shut up and go and just put some lipstick on someone. Like, God.
But this is the thing, right? I think a lot of people that be comedians or want to be comedians, they're not people that are naturally funny. They work on the craft and they work comedy and they figure out angles and they make jokes.
Yeah.
You're someone who is funny. Like, whenever we hang out, we have laughs.
Yeah,
You're a funny person. So you got to figure out how to channel that into comedy and not try and be a comedian, if that makes sense.
Well, this is where I was so confused, because I was like, I know that I'm lit up when I make people laugh. Like, that is my jam. But how do I translate? And then I was like Googling it. I even did an online course in comedy. They were like, you can come in and, like, we can do it. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not ready. I'll do it online. I'm seriously not ready. I feel so self-conscious. I don't even know what I'm doing.
But you don't get social anxiety normally.
No, I don't. But I've got a fear. I did have a fear of public speaking. Right. And so I was like, all right, mate, funny one. We've got to tell some jokes, mate. Like, you've got to learn to public speak. So I'm like, okay. So I did a public speaking course at NIDA.
Oh, wow.
And it was well received, but it was only like, a couple of hours for 4 weeks, one night a week. And I'm like, all right, that was good. And they were like, you're funny. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Cool.
Was it a comedy thing?
No,
or just
it wasn't.
speaking?
It was just public speaking, just getting up there. And basically most of the people there were corporates, just because they've got to do a lot of presentations. And I'm like, I was too embarrassed to even say. I was like, I just need to get more confident in front of the camera. Like,
the thing is, you've always been confident about how able to hold a group,
yeah,
right? But it's when, I guess, that escalates to a larger group.
Yeah, well, I work with famous people all the time, and I'm comfortable. I really am comfortable. I work with politicians and all sorts of people, and I am really confident and comfortable. But I'm in my own environment. It's like my room. It's the makeup room. Yeah. But if someone said, "Can you do a speech?" I'll shit myself. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I did that. And then I did another course a couple of months later. And the teacher said to me, you are a natural entertainer. And I was like, stop it, Jacqueline. Nah. But that just gave me, like, the confidence. And I'm like, all right, well, you don't go to the gym, for 1 week and expect to be ripped. So I was like, all right, you've really got to, like, hone in on this. So then I joined a Toastmasters.
What the fuck is that?
Mate, it is like AA for people wanting to public speak.
Really?
We meet up every fortnight on a Monday.
You still do it?
No, I did it for a whole year.
Right.
And they're all around the world. It's like AA. There's all around the world. Everyone's welcome. And you go there and you practice public speaking. And they have this thing called Table Topics at the first half of it, where they can choose anyone in the room and they get you up to the front of the room and they ask you a question. And it could be like, this is legit a question I got once. Do you think that video games should be an Olympic sport? And then you have to go talk for 2 minutes straight. And it's such a supportive environment where there's no wrong answers. You can't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter. It's there because people want to build their confidence. Yeah. And I would shit myself and I'd make a million excuses every second Monday that I wasn't going to go. But I'd force myself to go. And then I'd look around at the room and there was a lot of ESL people there, English as second language. And they're getting up there and they're having a goddamn crack in a language that isn't theirs. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Imagine you had to do it in Spanish or something.
Yeah, for fuck's sake. Come on, mate. Come on. Sort yourself out. So I was doing it. It was so uncomfortable. And I purposely chose a club that doesn't have alcohol or anything because I was like, give me a few drinks. Fucking I'm anyone's. But I need to be able to do this without alcohol. And anyway, I did a couple of speeches there, prepared speeches where you get up there and you talk for 8 minutes. And
8 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, without your notes as well. Well, you can have your notes, but I like to memorise it. And I got quite good. And anyway, I just did one a speech on the parent I am versus the parent I thought I was going to be. Like, I thought I was going to, cook her homemade organic meals and, dress her in neutral tones. And then she's just like wearing a highly flammable dress to school with slippers on. And I've just given her chicken nuggets from Aldi. Like, I'm not the parent I thought I was. Anyway, so I did this 8-minute speech and they said, it's really good. You should enter it in a competition.
What kind of competition?
A Toastmasters competition.
Oh, wow.
So I did, and I won.
Oh, wow.
And then...
I had no idea about Toastmasters.
Yes, I still drive past where I did it, and it gives me anxiety because it was the best thing for my growth. I literally had to change something up in my life. So anyway.
You'd recommend it to anyone who wants to better themselves in public
Yeah,
speaking.
and it's a safe environment. I went to Toorak Toastmasters. There's ones all around where you live. You can just look up like a club that's near you. And they welcome everyone in. And if you're new and a guest, you don't have to speak. You don't have to do anything. You might just come and just sit there and not say a thing for the whole thing. But you just see. And like people are just putting themselves out there. And there's no wrong way to do it either.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I came second. I went up to the next level in this competition and I came second. And then I went up to the next level after that.
What's that, the National Toasts something?
We're at the Toasties. We're at the Camberwell Library in a conference room on a Saturday afternoon. And on my way there, I added another joke to it. I thought, yeah, this is going to be fucking great.
Is it supposed to be jokes or just
No, I was in the humour category. You can be in the there's all different categories. Yeah, so I was in the humour category.
The eulogy category? What are the
Yeah,
other
there's
categories?
all different. Yeah. And anyway, so I'd added this other joke to it on the way there, thinking I am fucking top shit here. I'm just going to kill it. I'm going to win the Masters. I'm going all the way, baby. Because I added the other joke, I lost where I was.
Threw your whole routine off.
Threw me off, and I fucking bombed. I forgot my speech. Like I fully forgot it, and I was just standing there at the Camberwell Library, and I could see everyone's faces. They felt sorry for me. I was like, oh, don't. This is so uncomfortable. And I went into the fight or flight. And I was like, I'm going to run. I'm just going to fucking run. But I was like, my handbag's over there and the door's there. I'm going to have to fucking climb through people.
That goes against the toast. Like you
yeah,
want to
so I stood there and I was like, sorry, I've forgotten where I'm at. And I could just see everyone like, and I'm like, oh God, I'm bombing. Then anyway, I stumbled my way through the rest of it. And you know what? The worst thing that could happen happened. And I didn't die. And I was like, simultaneously like, okay, I've got these ideas for comedy now. And they say, do what you know. So what did I know? I knew makeup. I've done it for 20 years. And I was like, I've got so much comedy with makeup. So I started doing these reels while I was doing the Toastmasters stuff. So I was getting confident. But I was like, I cannot post these reels on Instagram because people know me. And the fear, and I think this is the fear with everyone, is people looking at it and going, what is she doing? Who does she think she is? How embarrassing. And I'm sure people have said that behind my back and it's fine. No one's actually said it to my face.
They said that before the reels.
Yeah, right. They've been saying it for decades. And so anyway, I did a couple of comedy reels and I put it on TikTok where no one knew me. I didn't follow anyone. I was like, I'm just putting this out there to see what happens. And it was fine. You know, I got like 300 views or whatever. And I'm like, again, you bomb on stage, you put your work out there, the world keeps turning whether it's received well or not. Yep. You know, it's not the end of the world. You don't need to like put your whole identity into this. And then anyway, I had a funny idea for like a fake tanning one where I only fake tan like the bits of my body that are on display. And so anyway, I posted me prancing around in my underwear with just like patches of fake tan where I, you know, and then the next like clip is of me with the clothes on. And I just said something like, only tan the bits on display, something like that. Anyway, I put that out there on TikTok. No one I know is following me. No one knows me. And I couldn't get back on it for a week because I had so much shame that I am 40.
Shame spiral.
Oh, the shame spiral was like deeper than anything I'd ever had. I was like, who are you? Prancing around in your knickers, 40 years old, what are you doing with fake tan patches all over your body? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, I got to the point where I was so anxious about it. I was like, I'm just going to delete TikTok. I'm going to forget this whole comedy thing. You're a dick. You're a dick for even thinking any of this. Anyway, I get on TikTok and I'm like, oh, it's gone viral. It's gone viral. It's got 1 million views.
1 million on your first one?
No, I'd done a few. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But that one kicked it off.
It was like my third one or something.
Right.
And I remember my brother-in-law being like, yeah, is that you? Because he's like 10 years younger and he's on TikTok. And I was like, yeah, it is. And he's like, okay. So after that, I was like, all right, it's working. Like people are, receiving what I'm putting out there. And then I started getting a bit more confident and doing different ones. And then like one got over 5 million views. And I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready to put this on Instagram. But I was so scared. I was honestly, I remember waiting for my coffee, about to put one of my comedy reels on Instagram where like I had like 3,000 followers, all people that know me or have worked with me or something. And
in the hair and makeup world or just in the Kath
and friends, just like you. But like imagine, you and everyone else that's ever known me going, oh my God, what the fuck's she doing? She's fucking lost it now. Which I have. I'm not saying I haven't. And I remember like hitting post and my hand was like shaking because I was so nervous about it. And then again, it was well received. And then the more you do, the more you're like, you know what? No one cares that much about you. No one's actually, because they're all caring about themselves.
They'll swipe away when they...
Yeah, whatever. If they're bored, they won't watch it. If they do, they're like, lol. And maybe they will call someone and say, have you fucking seen Kath Carlin? She's having a midlife crisis. Like, cool, fine.
She's finally recorded.
Yeah, she's finally, yeah. And then anyway, so then I started getting confident with the makeup stuff and I'm like, I don't have to just do makeup. Well, then it transitioned. I was like, let's do a Get Ready With Me. It's 2003 and we're going to One Love at the Prince of Wales. And that went off its dick, like for Instagram. Like I think I got like pretty quickly like 250,000 views, which it's harder to get views on Instagram.
TikTok give them to you, no worries, I feel like at the start.
Yeah, but then it's harder to get followers on TikTok. I don't know. I honestly, TikTok blows my mind of like, I can't quite figure it out.
Yeah.
But Instagram, maybe because I'm older, I understand it more because it's for like more of our generation. I don't know.
And that's definitely a thing with the TikTok stuff. When you're talking about Prince of Wales circa 2003, I get it, we lived it, but kids on TikTok don't really.
Oh yeah, I did one of like making best friends in the bathrooms at a nightclub in the early 2000s. And I'll never forget like a young girl, of course, because I went onto her profile just to see. She's like, this isn't 2000s, this is 70s, and you look like you were born in the 60s. And I'm like, wait till the Bowie wears off. Fucking hell.
Wow.
I know. And then a bunch of older people piled on. It was like, this is exactly how it was, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think I'm more relatable now on Instagram. And so then I did that. And it was so well received. I was like, I need to do a like, not so much makeup, Get Ready With Me, but like, get ready, we're going out clubbing in the early 2000s. And then that really went off its dick. And because I make up, people with like big profiles like Jackie Falgate and Beck Judd follows me as well. They both reposted that. Yeah. And when someone like a big name reposts you, suddenly more people pile on.
You didn't ask them to do that.
No, I would never. And Jackie's a very good friend of mine. And I actually came from her house this morning. I made her up this morning. She's very supportive of all my stuff and she will repost. I would never ask her to, and she'll never repost anything that I'm swearing in because it's not her brand, which is fine. And, whatever, I would never ask anyone to repost my stuff. But if they do, that's always a bonus because then that's how it gets shared. Yep. But then I was like, all right, cool. And then I just started being like, cool, all right, the early 2000s, people are relating to that. And I had so many ideas swimming around in my head. But then I was like, I just have other ideas. And so then I did one of like how when you drink in your 20s and you behave so badly, you wake up and you think it's funny. Like you don't care. You don't care that you spewed all over everyone
like,
and you wet yourself.
Being on the back of the tram on the way home, you're like, yeah,
woo! Being at your house, just setting off a fire extinguisher on a Tuesday night.
In your lounge room?
Yeah, like cool. And like no shame, no anything. And then in your 30s, well, I'm about to turn 40. Literally, I will have a few wines with a friend and wake up at 3 a.m. going, I don't think I actually said thank you for having me. And did I put my bottle in the recycling or did I just put it in the normal rubbish? And I spiral about that.
But that's definitely a thing that happens in your 30s. Like, okay, I grew up the same as you, didn't give a fuck, did whatever we wanted. It was a laugh. It was
Yeah.
funny. You get up the next day, you do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is when you get to your mid-30s that you just, like, the next day anxiety.
It's called a midlife crisis, and we're all having one.
Do you reckon that's what it is?
I just think you start taking a good hard look at yourself and realising also that our parents were so much younger than us. Like when my daughter's like asking me questions like, Mummy, what do snails eat? I'm like, how would I know? Go Google it, mate. And then I'm like, my mum was 10 years younger than me with a 4-year-old. I'm like, I thought you had all the answers.
Yeah, and by the way, she had 3 other girls as well.
Madness, absolute carnage. Yeah, I'm one of 4 girls. I was mad.
Nuts.
Yeah, so I don't know. So then I just started doing whatever I think is funny. And now, like, because I'm confident now, like, I don't really care. Like, once you put your art out there, people are going to like it or they're not going to like it. And some are going to say rude shit and some are going to love it.
You've got to have a thick skin on the internet.
And you do. And just get over it. And, you know, like Brene Brown says, you know, something about the man in the arena, like, only if you're in there, then you can judge me. But if you're out there watching, like, what do I care? And Jackie Felgate gave me some great advice when, like, people were sort of piling on TikTok over something I did. She was like, would you take criticism? Don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't take advice from. And I was like, yeah, there's a 20-year-old girl having a big spray at me, but, like, I'm not going to take advice from you either, so I don't care about your criticism. But still, you do read the comments and be like, oh, I didn't mean to offend anyone, and I hope, blah, blah, blah. But you just, if you're putting your art, whatever form it is out there, people are going to like it, people aren't going to like it. That's just the way it goes.
For sure. As you build a larger following, though, the comments, you don't look at them, and people will fight their battles for you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I've seen it happen, and I'm like, oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks, give it a little like there.
But I did a similar thing where I fucked around with some TikTok, and I've never put it on Instagram. Any of my TikTok stuff I've never put on Instagram, but it was reasonably well received. Then you go through this. I went through this thing where I'm like, do you want to keep pushing the same thing? Are you going to look like a goose then? Because people are like, mate, give it up with this here. You know what I mean?
With your shtick, yeah.
So that's the kind of thing you've got to push past that.
And also, and then, like, you do have to evolve from it. So yeah, like, a lot of it really, I took off on Insta because of the early 2000s stuff. But I'm like, I do other stuff, and I'll still whack a makeup one in there. But the early 2000s is always the most well received. But if I look at, like, my demographic of following, it is 85% Melbourne, female, ages 35 to 45. So, you know, that's your missus.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And, like, if I look at the following that we've got with this, it's Melbourne, it's 95% male and 35 to 45. So,
look at us, we're collab. Collab crossing.
Same.
Yeah.
But I remember, Jess showed me a video that you did, and it was one of the early 2000s ones, and I'm like, yep, that's spot on. That's exactly
to a T.
Yeah, and it was being shared around with her group of friends. The thing is, you've nailed something there because it's a period of time that just wasn't documented with video. Now, there is photos out there of the early 2000s, but who's got video footage of getting ready? Because this camera phone's not a thing.
It wasn't a thing. That was not a thing.
Couldn't record video.
Well, Toz and I got together when we were 23, nearly 24, and you couldn't take videos on your phone then. And these are all set before him. Yeah.
Pre-Toz.
Pre-Toz.
And I've known Torrin for a long time.
You've known him longer than I have, I think.
We went to school together. But so how does he feel about the whole thing?
Oh, he's come home and I'm wearing his suit and a bald cap and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. I'm like, get out, I'm shooting something, get out.
But what is it? Is he down with it?
Yeah, he's just like, you do you, boo, whatever your thing is.
Yeah, you're like, you know what you signed up for.
Yeah, you knew I was a psycho from the very beginning. I think I gave him the first 18 months, I acted all that. And then after a while, he's like, oh, yeah, you're actually batshit crazy. Cool, now you're stuck with me.
But
he goes, I've got Stockholm Syndrome now, so I can't leave.
There you go. Stockholm Syndrome. I was actually looking up the origins of that the other day, which has got nothing to do with this, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, poor Toz, I've Stockholmed him.
You've Stockholmed him.
Yeah, now he's obsessed with his abuser.
So this is the interesting thing with the content, like I was just saying before, with the content creating stuff, you want to follow the niche that people like, but you don't want to pander to the audience too much. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's a funny one, don't you think?
Yeah, and like a lot of people message me like, you need to do one on this or you need to do one on that. But I'm at a state with myself that I trust what I think is funny and what's going to be well received. And like the ideas just that I have so many like ideas written in my phone in the notes of what I'm going to do next. My next one I think is going to be piecing together the night before.
That's good.
Yeah, you know when you wake up and you're like, I can't.
Where's my car?
Yeah, oh my God, like how did I get home? What time? And I've already written a script for that. But then it's also about getting the time to shoot it. And we've moved into a very old, dark house now, and it's kind of hard to film in there. But I'm working that out.
You need some lights and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I need this get up now. I'm becoming big time. Yeah, so basically what I do is I write. My favourite part of the process is writing the script.
So you actually write stuff down?
Oh, yeah, it's well curated. But I've worked in TV my whole life, so I know how this shit works, and I know how to edit, and I actually shoot it, if I can, in sequence so that it makes the edit easier. Yeah, so my favourite part of it is writing, and then, you know, like, well, it's usually just as I'm about to fall asleep, I'll get an idea. And then I'm like, fuck, I've got to write this down. So I get my phone out, and then suddenly I'm awake writing in my notes like, oh, this sounds funny. I did one for like 1-3 cabs, and I'm like, I need a Von Dutch hat. Next thing I know, it's 2 a.m. and I'm on eBay bidding for a Von Dutch hat. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? $80. I'm like, I need it for this.
And that's come full circle. At the cafe down there, a chick's wearing a Von Dutch t-shirt.
Real?
Now.
Oh, I'm bringing it back. Bringing back the early 2000s.
Well, that's the scary thing now is that time when we were going out now is retro, you know?
I know. Well, and people are having dress-up parties. I'm like, because in my mind, if I meet someone that's 27, I'm like, same, babe. And then I'm like, no, I'm turning 40 in February.
Yeah. I'm
old.
Your 21st, you had a bogan-themed dress-up party. That was one kicking off the dress-up parties as well. The bogan theme.
I loved it. To my 21st, I wore a wife beater with a cushion up it so that I had a beer gut, socks, thongs, footy shorts and a mullet wig to my 21st birthday.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, my God. Shit, I forgot about it.
Yeah.
That went off. But again, in your 20s, you just give no fucks. Like, I'm thinking of having a 40th, but it's making me anxious even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Did you have a 40th?
Yeah, I did like a year later because of, I think, COVID or something.
Yeah.
No, I had a broken arm. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. It's not a way. I had a 30th. I gave it a crack. You DJ'd. You can't remember DJ. It went off.
What venue was it?
Speakeasy, I think, on Chapel Street. It was upstairs.
Upstairs.
It went off. It was a wig party. I think I was chucking a wig on. I think I was forcing you to wear a wig.
Yeah, Speakeasy's not there anymore. But
No,
yeah,
it's
I know
gone.
where it is. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fucking that part of my life was a fair blur around Chapel Street and DJing, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember Torrens one. I remember yours
His was at the Saint,
the Saint. Yeah, anyway.
and
We're just rambling
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, no one cares, actually. No one gives a fuck where my 30th birthday was.
No, but I heard someone say the other day, they're like, what do people in their 40s do? And then it was like a reel or TikTok thing or Instagram, whatever. And he's like, they don't do anything because they've got mortgages and they want to stay at home. And the thought of going anywhere gives them anxiety. So they just stay at home. And it's pretty much fucking right.
Yeah, I know. Just get a bottle of wine and we're fine. We're hanging out at home. And like a lot of us have kids now. So everything's different.
For sure.
Like even if you go on holiday with your kid, it's like, well, it gets to 9 o'clock and you have to go home.
Yeah.
Because they've got to go to bed.
But what about these people, man, that go to like Europe with 2 kids and stuff? Like,
Rather be dead. No, kill me
no
now.
Chance, man.
No. We actually have booked a trip, but she's not coming. We're going to a wedding. It's my best friend's wedding in Malta. Right. So we're going for 7 nights.
There you go.
Yeah. No way is she coming.
Nah, man.
It's too hard.
I know people that are like go backpacking around Europe with their 2 kids.
No.
And I'm like,
if I was rich and had a nanny, great. Bring it on. But no chance. No. Absolutely no chance.
I have, with my son's 5, and I say to Jess, I'm like, man, I wouldn't think about going anywhere out of the country, and even going to Queensland seems like
maybe Bali. Yeah, we've taken her to Queensland. That's fine. Yeah. But you know what? Just do what the rest of us did, and our kids can save up and go backpacking on their own. Like, Pay for yourself. I don't want to pay for you to go to Europe. Sort yourself out. My parents never paid for me to go to Europe. Fuck off.
Man, you've got some reels about going to Europe as well, which is pretty spot on.
Yeah,
that's
some
like the next step of kind of like the 2000s going out, and then the European trip you had to do in your 20s as well.
Yes, the obligatory, backpack through Europe. I did many of those. Before I started doing the tennis tours, I did a lot of them and had a lot of fun times. And I actually did a Kentucky one. And people started piling on going, Facebook wasn't around then. And I'm like, okay, guys, you know what? How about let's just say this fake scenario that I filmed in my bedroom in St Kilda. How about we say it's loosely set from 02 to 07? And they're like, it's false. And I'm like, you know what else is fucking false? I never even went on Kentucky. The whole thing's fake. It's just for entertainment. If you don't like it, just swap away. Yeah. Why are we having this fight?
Yeah.
Calm down. It was just for lols.
Yeah, Ben, people do it all the time with these YouTube stuff. They'll start arguing amongst themselves on YouTube videos, and you're like, mate, who are you even talking to?
Who cares? I did it for a lol. Like, people said you got to do a Kentucky one. I've never been on Kentucky. I asked some questions to people that have been on Kentucky, and I did a reel. There you go. Like, do whatever you want with it.
Sail Croatia. Did you do that one?
I've never been Sail Croatia, but like I'll ask some questions. I'll put it out there because that's what I did with the boutique nightclub one. Is that a girl that I work with, Kate Jones at Channel 7, she's a journo. She's like, Kath, I was cleaning up my house and I found a medallion to boutique. She goes, take it. And I'm like, there's got to be a reel in this. Mm-hmm. So I took a photo of it and I put it up on my story and I'm like, everyone just give me what you got. Yeah. And people just, and just like, and so what I sort of like copy paste everything that everyone said, put it all into my notes, and then I'd go through it and see what was coming up over and over again. Like the swing kept coming up over and over again, and the tripping on the dance floor step kept coming up. Some guy called Razzle,
Razzle owned them. He was
I didn't actually know him, but it came up so many times that I was like, all right, these are the themes that people want to hear.
Yep.
And then I try and turn it into, and then I write a script around it and try and make a reel out of it.
I did see you post that medallion. I'm like, yeah, Kath wasn't really a boutique kind of girl though.
You know what? Like I was a little bit older, like post Jackson Street. I was a bit of a boo-boo girl, but more of a Friday night than a Saturday night. I do want to do one on Motel and I do want to do one on Twister.
Yeah.
Poor corner.
The whole Twister, man, I'll get Warren. Warren from Twister has been talking to me a lot about coming on back in the early days, and he's got some great stories, but I think we might get cancelled or potentially he might get himself in trouble.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I did get in there when I was 16, maybe even 15.
Yeah, well, that's a whole story in itself. The whole pork corner. Yeah, man. Yeah. People, it's funny now, like, and that's again like what I was saying. That we would just go to the pub and then go to Prince or go to Twister or go to fucking, whatever was on Chapel Street. Yeah. Because that was the local place. But people you'd meet have come from Frankston, Ringwood, Geelong, all this shit.
I spent a bomb on taxis back then, maxi taxis. I've had a lot of people message me and be like, oh my God, you're the same as me, but I lived out in the burbs, so we'd all like hire a hotel room, like a motel, just so we had somewhere to stay for the night rather than all catch a taxi back.
We can't really, we can't.
I didn't you didn't know what you didn't know, you know what I mean? I just thought everyone like lived around there,
We'd literally just walk home from these places and see the people
like
stuck in the taxi.
We were the mayors of Fitzroy Street.
Well, that's what we thought.
I know, and but Chapel Street, until recently, I lived St Kilda, but just like the Chapel Street end of St Kilda. Till recently, now I'm old. I'm not going out partying, obviously, and so I'm doing Pilates at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I'll see the line for Revs out the front. So that's still like 161 Revs. I tell you, the one that throws me the most is Breakfast Club. Yep. It's Monday, and there's a line down the street, and I'm driving to work, and I'm like, oh God, you people are giving me anxiety.
Yeah, but those kids aren't going to work and stuff.
No, they're going to uni. I mean, it's all fun.
Yeah, a lot of the Breakfast Club people. A lot of those are internationals that are here just to party.
Oh, and how great. Yeah, how fun. Yeah, exactly. How fun. And Tozza still wants to have a crack. He'll drive past and be like, no.
Really?
I'm like, you're a 40-year-old dad. Like, stop.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit. That's a good segue. Let's talk a little bit about parenthood because we all like to have fun, but then eventually we grow up.
I know.
And see, this is the thing. Like my partner Jess, she was like a partier as well, worked in nightclubs, and then she was like, I don't really want to have kids. And then we got together in our early 20s, and then she's like, I do want to have kids. Is that what happened for you? You didn't really, and then you did.
I always knew that I wanted to because I'm the eldest of 4 girls, and I loved my little sisters, and like I felt like I was a good little sort of mum. And then I babysat all the way up until I was about 20, and I was good around kids, and I always liked them. And Toz and I, like I said, we got together. He was a one-night stand from the Saint on a Sunday night, 16, 17 years ago or something. And so we were together. We did lots of partying, lots of travelling, all the things. And then, like I said, I started being like, who am I? And like we were both like 34, so we started trying for a baby, and it was quite like we've had a lot of challenges in that area. And actually, no, I had to convince him. He was like, I'm not ready.
Right.
And I was like, oh, they say the scary age of 35, for women, which is, I think, you put that shit in girls' heads and they start freaking out at 35. Like, please. Like,
Well, I think we're talking about midlife crisis. I think from a female's perspective, it's definitely drummed into you that after that, like even medically, they say it's a geriatric pregnancy.
I know.
So that's a real line in the sand that I think a lot of people don't even know about. If you're a male, it's cool. They're like, you should get your prostate checked. But if you're a female, they're like, having a baby after here is medically hard, and we're going to tell you about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I ended up having my daughter just before I turned 36. So that is, I think, considered a geriatric pregnancy. But yeah, so I always knew I wanted to have kids. But we just kind of were just enjoying life and not, we were just, doing the double income, no kids thing. Like it was fun. You go out for dinner on a Tuesday night, whatever. And it sort of naturally, I think I pushed him in the direction of it, and then I tried to trick him a few times and it didn't work.
Tried to
Trick him. He's like, assault! And so then he was ready to start trying, and then we had our daughter, and I thought because Toz, he's lots of fun. I thought he was going to freak out, but he just fell into fatherhood, and we had a daughter, and I think he was expecting to have a boy. He would always imagine he was going to have a boy.
Yep.
And we found out what we were having, and we're having a girl, and he was like, oh God, that feels so weird. But now that he's a girl dad, he just absolutely loves it, absolutely adores it. He's like a 10 out of 10 dad with her. It's great.
But see, that maybe it's a maturity thing because boys don't mature well until they're a bit older.
Yeah.
So maybe if you were a few years younger, maybe wasn't ready.
Well, maybe we weren't. Like, I'm glad that I don't know how, I can't do the maths of how many years we were together before, but a while. We were together a long time before we had the baby. And I think what also helped is I got pregnant in March of 2020, where the whole world shut down.
Yep.
So no one was having any fun while I was pregnant. Yeah. Not even Toz wasn't going out. He couldn't go out. There was nothing to do.
Yep.
So, and then I had her at the end of 2020, and then, we went in and out of lockdown. So it was kind of a good time to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think about it, that wedding was in between lockdowns now, wasn't it? Like
no, it was before. It was before the first lockdown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just.
I think it was in February. Yeah, or March.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. So then you have your kid. Everyone's happy. Yep, we're parents now.
Yeah.
But it is a big change to people that have lived in an inner city area the whole time. I was living literally down the road from you guys when Jess and I had our son. It's like, well, what do we do? We've only known this sort of stuff. We live in apartments in the city. Do we move to the burbs like I end up moving down here?
Yeah.
Like it's a bit of a culture shock, isn't it, for people that have lived like that and always lived in that area? That's like where we grew up.
Yeah, so I didn't really know anything. And also we lived in an apartment with a flight of stairs. We didn't actually have a lift. So that was sort of like a bit of a pain in the end. I just left the pram downstairs. I was like, I'd rather someone steal it than me drag this shit upstairs. I don't care. Like, I actually don't care. And yeah, like I remember when she was 4 months old, I was strapping her into the car out the front of our apartment building, and someone just shot up in front of us. And I'm like, oh my God. But I don't know. I've always felt pretty safe around St Kilda. I don't know why. Like, nothing bad ever happened to me in that area.
Yeah, and I was the same until you got a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
where we were, like near Alma Road, there was a lot of halfway houses, a lot of people like, Elmer House, all that sort of shit. And we'd just have randoms walk down and we'd be sitting out the front having a drink and they'd just come walk into our house, hang out. And then that was all funny for a while until you've got a little kid there and then Jess would fucking lose it. You know what I mean? And you're like, is this really this space so we want to bring up a kid?
Yeah. We had a sex worker that was working just right by the trade link out the front of our house and she kept stealing my HelloFresh. And I'd have to saunter over there and be like, Crystal, give it back.
Crystal.
I've had enough. And then I said to her, like, you have to stop stealing our stuff. And she was like, yeah, cool, I will. And they were sort of squatting, I guess, like over the road from our house. And I went and had words to her. I'm like, or I'll call the council, okay? But just stop stealing my HelloFresh, okay? But this is 4 times now. And then the next day I rocked up and her partner, her boyfriend, was sitting in my camping chair having a stubby. And I somehow got into my garage and stolen it. And I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm calling the council. You guys are out. You're out. And then I think because I called the council on her, she did a wee on my car in front of me.
In front of you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this is a lot. This is quite a lot. So, yeah, it's a colourful area, but I will always have a soft spot for St Kilda.
Yeah, look, it's great being able to stumble home and stuff, but I think once kids come into the picture, you just sort of, it's a different sort of thing,
Yeah, so now, we've moved to South Melbourne. South. Come down south, get a punch in the mouth.
Grow up in Port, end up in court.
So, yeah, and it's much more of a family-friendly area, but our place is much more disgusting than what we It's literally sideways. So it's a nice area, but...
Is it weatherboard, like fallen over?
Yeah, it just, it needs to be knocked down and rebuilt, basically. Yeah.
The old renovation
with all that
delight.
Money, renovation delight.
But that is something that kind of, and it's first world problems, but when you grow up in an area and you can't afford to live there inevitably, so people just move out. And look, you are probably one of the very few people that grew up in that similar area that we did that has managed to still buy a house in that area.
Well, I'll tell you how we managed to, is that Toz's mum had a very distant relative that she was looking after that owned that house. Yeah. And she sold that house to us. That's how...
And that's the only way it could really happen these days.
Yeah, it was still expensive. I won't lie. It was still expensive, but probably a good price for that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, man. I think most people now have to grow up, whether it's in the city or in the suburbs, they can't afford in their 40s, like sort of we are, to sort of buy a place in the area that they grew up. It's pretty much doesn't happen.
Good luck to our kids. They're going to need 25 mil to buy a front door.
They will, man. I think that's where we're definitely getting to is kids are going to be, wealth has to be generational. And I think maybe...
Why wasn't I born into it?
Well, you've got too many sisters anyway.
Fucking, I know. I've got to divide that shit by 4. And it's so annoying.
But yeah, wealth has to be generational, I think, moving forward. And then I guess you look at people like us are probably a good case study. We're both only having 1 kid. Yeah. Right? So then those kids might be okay. But if you've got 4 kids, it's a fucking different story altogether.
It really is. And it's different when our parents, when I say, like I said earlier, I grew up in Albert Park. My parents bought a double-fronted house in Albert Park for 48 grand. And Dad's like, yeah, but I was earning 38 grand a year. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know anyone that's earning $1.2 million a year. What you earn and what mortgage prices are now. So, yeah, that's what, everyone I know has had to move out. Or you stay in a small place in a city. That's pretty much how it works. You stay in a small place in the city or you move out to the burbs.
Yeah. It's I always love, and a mutual friend of ours just had a baby. He's like, no, we're staying in St Kilda. We're staying in our apartment, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. I'll give it 2 years. Yeah. 3 flights of stairs and all that stuff
Yeah, and I mean, they do it in Europe. They do it in New York. I know, but I had a friend who lived in Paris for 12 years and she came back to Australia and she'd had her babies in Paris. And she's a lawyer and everything, but the way that they live is totally different to the way that they live. She came back here and she's like, even your prams are bigger. Everyone needs a big house and da-da-da. And they've moved back to Australia and, it's crept in and then she's like, oh, no, we need more space. We need a bigger car. We need 2 cars. That's just how we live in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get used to what you get used to. I'll go back to St Kilda, man, and I get a bit of anxiety. I'm like, everyone's living on top of each other. I need a bit of space.
Yeah.
I want to be able to...
How long have you
breathe.
been here for?
2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I will go back now to East St Kilda, and I'm like, literally that person's driveway is next to our bedroom. That is, you know what I mean? These people are now here from Europe, and they're ruling the fucking block next door. Like, there's too much going on.
There is a lot going on.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound old. Coming from Jackson Street where you're like, I just want one night off partying.
What about Inkerman Street? Remember that house on Inkerman Street?
Yes,
The
I
big
do.
one?
Well, that's right near where I was. Yeah.
That was a fun house.
That was, we've had some we've had a lot of parties together over the years. And also, can I also add that we went on a game show when we were in primary school and we won lift-off game show. Do you remember that?
We won bicycles.
Yeah, no, and I won a mini TV that never worked. I got to choose, and I remember thinking, fuck, I should have chosen the bike.
I won a
like
Repco bike.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, the lift-off game show.
Yeah, and
did we get on that because your dad was in TV, or was that just through the school?
Yeah, no, we did. My dad knew the producer. And my sister was on the opposing team and we beat her and we were like high-fiving and then I saw her crying and I was like, oh, I feel a bit bad. And I remember you and me, we were like, because you were like 2 years above me in primary school, we sauntered through the playground and just high-fived each other in the playground. Top shit.
In grade 5, being on a kids game show is probably the pinnacle of coolest thing you could do.
And winning as well. Like, and Trent McKettrick was our other, there was 3 of us. No, Liam. It was Liam. It was the brother. Yeah.
Liam.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember it so clearly.
We've got to dig that footage up from somewhere.
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
ABC.
Fuck. Yeah, that's funny. I forgot all about that, man.
Yeah.
Good times.
We've got history.
Crazy stuff. We're on a similar sort of journey, yourself and myself. We had a lot of fun, had kids in our mid-30s. Then one thing that people don't tell you, because my partner is a year older than you, is that it's really hard to then have kids. If you have your first one at 35, 36, it's hard to have your second one.
Yeah.
Or can be.
I know.
We decided not to.
Yeah, well, my parents just pumped 4 out in less than 4 years. They had me, 18 months later had twins, and then 2 years later had another one. So they had 4 girls in less than 4 years. And granted, they were like 10 years younger than what we were when we started trying. So Toz and I, when we decided we were going to have a baby, we had, I think, about 3 or 4 very early miscarriages beforehand. So, you don't expect that to happen to you. But they were very early, like I didn't need surgery or anything like that. But I thought, oh, well, let's just nip this in the bud and go and get some, like, pay a doctor. So we didn't do IVF, but we did something called an ovulation induction. And I did have a surgery, like some laparoscopy to, like, see if everything's all right going on in there. Anyway, they said there's like 1 tube working or something. Like, this is shit you don't know. Like,
and it's not talked about much, and not from the male's perspective.
I had no idea. It's just like, I thought all those years you tried not to get pregnant. I was like, what was I doing? Who cares? And then so that worked first time. First time round, that worked. So you don't actually need to... It's not really invasive. You take a couple of tablets. Oh, no, I think I did some injections, did a trigger shot, and then you have timed intercourse for 4 days in a row.
Timed intercourse.
Yeah, hot, sexy, isn't it? Cute. But that worked first time. So there was a bit of trouble getting pregnant, but then once I was pregnant with her, I didn't have any symptoms to actually the point where I started freaking out that, like, the baby wasn't in there because I just had, like, I didn't get sick, didn't get anything. But it was actually a pretty easy process for me to be pregnant. I had a cesarean with her and I had a really good recovery and I had a very easy baby, which was, if you have a baby that sleeps, I know, like, I'm one of those pricks, but because I don't sleep, but I seem to have this kid she's chill. So...
You're lucky.
Very lucky, and, like, I'm aware that I'm lucky. I'm also aware that, like, Toz was able to he had long service, so he took 3 months off, and I wasn't able to breastfeed, and I didn't spiral about that. I was like, okay, well, I had a really good nurse that said fed is best, however you want to do it. If you just want to bottle feed, if this isn't working for you, we'd rather not have an anxious mum.
Yeah, and that's something that I feel like they say to people, oh, breastfeeding's normal, breastfeeding's the best way to do it. But not everyone can do that.
Yeah, I honestly, my mum had all these kids. She had them suckling off her teats. Like, I thought that was it. To just push them out of the vagina. Like, I thought that was going to be me. But everything that I thought was the opposite. It wasn't easy to get pregnant. I had a cesarean and then I couldn't breastfeed. But you know what? Like, I rolled with, I was actually okay to roll with that. And what the good thing is that Todd's bought himself a PlayStation and he'd do the night feed. So I'd go to bed early. He'd sit up, have a couple of wines, play the PlayStation, go in, give her a bottle, put her back to sleep, and because she slept, and then I was able to get up at 6 a.m. and sort of... So we ended up having quite an easy sort of transition into the parenting thing and just an easy kid. And then anyway, when she was 1, we were like, let's start again. Let's try for another one.
Yep. Which is about the time a lot of people, if they are going to bang them out, would go for the second.
Yeah, and that's sort of, I was just sort of thinking of what my parents did. They literally had me 18 months later, had twins. So, like, they had 3 kids under 18 months. Like, it's mental. They're like, oh, we don't recommend doing what we do. Don't do that. You'll go mad. And so, anyway, the same thing happened. I had, like, these early miscarriages, and now it all starts to be a blur. But there ended up being so many miscarriages that I had to have surgery to get them out of me.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I would sort of get to like the 10-week mark and then just lose it. There'd just be no heartbeat at the next scan. That's what sort of happened.
And that's traumatic. We went through similar stuff,
Yeah.
but not to that extent. But that's traumatic for any woman or any couple. And I feel like it's not spoken about nearly enough.
Yeah, especially with guys. Well, because I work in makeup rooms, we talk about this stuff, but it's more of a conversation now than it was even a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, and boys are just like, I don't know, like, what the hell? Yeah. And I think as well, the whole thing is that you're pregnant as well. So you're trying to eat the right food, and you're not drinking, you're doing blah, 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 and oh, I can't have too many coffees. So you're conscious that there's like someone growing inside you. And then it's like, oh no, it's all over. But then you have to like have surgery, and then you got to wait another cycle, and then you try again, and then you got the 2-week wait after that to see if you're pregnant. And then it goes on and goes on. And so we had like 2 years of that. And then my anxiety started being like, oh, the age gap. I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but my mind was like, the age gap's getting bigger and bigger. I had an idea of what I wanted. I wanted 2 kids really close in age, but guess what? Like, the universe doesn't work like that. You don't always get what you want. And so anyway, the last couple of miscarriages I had, because I had so many, I was sort of in a program at the Women's, and they did every test under the sun, every test on both of us 1,000,000 times. And
that's taxing.
Yeah. Oh, they were taking 12 vials of blood out of my arm, and there was absolutely nothing. She goes, usually like when this happens, you can be within normal range, but like, whatever. She's like, both of you are like exactly in normal range. And then like, you have well-meaning people saying, have you tried some magnesium? And I'm like, okay. Like, I've done everything. And then, so every time I had a miscarriage taken out, they would take it away for testing because I was in this program. And it kept being like, there is a chromosomal thing, which is, you can't, and obviously that gets more apparent as you get older, but like, people can have babies 45 and be fine. So, and
also you guys have had the same genetics together and made a perfectly fine human.
Exactly.
So it's doable.
And we've had all the genetic testing done as well, but chromosome things are different, and it does increase as you get older. So like, that's, I was like sort of 38 at the time. And so then we were just like, when I think 3 or 4 of those had happened, honestly, I've lost count of how many times I've been pregnant. We said, well, why don't we do IVF, and where they can test the embryos for any chromosomal problems and see how we go with that. So we did IVF. I said, I'll do 1 round. That's it. So we did 1 round. We got 4 embryos. They tested them. Out of those 4, only 1 didn't have chromosome problems.
Right. And that's an age thing? Or you can only attribute it to that?
But you know what? They're like, you're not that old. I was 38 at the time. They're like, you're not actually that old. Like,
did they test your mental age? Because you were pretty young.
I was young. I was a teenager. I was like 18, guys. So anyway, they put that in. They're like, we'll see what happens. And it literally just did not take. Yeah. It didn't take. And I was like, all right, we're done. And I'd been paying private health insurance for years, and I was like, cancel it all. I'm done. I'm out. No word of a lie. This is around Christmas last year, so around this time. 10 days after that, I accidentally got pregnant. And we were like, and everyone's like, oh, it's your miracle baby. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, all right, we're doing this. So I cancelled the health insurance. So I was like, really glad I paid all that money, but now I'm having it in public, which I don't mind having it in public. That's not to diss the public.
Public system's pretty good.
Yeah, but I had all my miscarriages taken out. I had all the D&Cs done at the women's, and they were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. So I'm not dissing the public system. It's just that I paid all this money for nothing. So anyway, it was fine. I was going to have the baby at the Monash. And then, I did the test, the blood test, and they called me when I maybe was 12-ish weeks and just said the baby's got Down syndrome. And I was like, okay, wow, like that's heavy. I don't what do you do here? And they're like, well, we will you've got to wait for the hospital to call you to give you a scan because it's not 100% accurate. You can't tell from a blood test that it's 100% accurate until you do a scan. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I, waited for the hospital to call me, which took over a week.
Which would have felt like a year.
I was, talk about spiralling. That was a big spiral. And anyway, they said, yep, come in for a scan, and it still took, I think, another week to book in for a scan. So it was like I don't know, I can't remember the timeline. Anyway, by the time I went in there, I think I was 14 weeks. And they were like, when they did the scan, there was a baby in there, but its heart had stopped. So it had died. Yeah, so they were like, we're really sorry. And it was really hard and really horrible. But it was also, I don't know. But my friend said something really kind, and I thought, she said, the baby made the decision for you. So
that's deep.
Yeah, because you always, you say you wouldn't have a Down syndrome baby, but then when it's in your body, you really don't know until you're in the situation what you're going to do there. And so anyway, then after that, I had to get surgery to take it out, which took another week to book in. So this was like a long time of like being pregnant with this baby. And that was this year. And when they took it out, I was like, I'm done. Like I'm turning 40 next birthday. I'm done. And so they put a marina in it now. Like, I'm done.
Okay. And that's it, yeah.
But you know what? I'm at peace. I'm happy. I really am happy. I have one child. She's great. She's hilarious. She's nuts. And I'm very happy. And that's just how it turned out for me. Everyone has some sort of story. That's just how it turned out for me. And I'm lucky to have got one child because some people don't. And yeah.
And some people don't, and some people can't, and they have to deal with these people like, when are you going to have kids? And like, shut up.
And some people just don't want to have them, and that's whatever you want to do. Who cares? Yeah. Who actually cares?
Yeah, but all that stuff is obviously pretty traumatic, but at the same time, you're trying to be jovial and sort of start a comedy thing online as well, which is totally hard.
I've been pregnant in so many of those.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, and people just didn't pick up on
it. No. So yeah, like
was that an outlet for you while you were doing that sort of stuff? Like,
I don't know. I've kept it very separate, but I am actually really happy to talk about it. And because I work in makeup rooms, I talk with a lot of females, and so many people go through this sort of stuff. Like, what happened to me was a lot. Like, it's happened a lot of times, but it's not uncommon for most people to have one or two. Yeah. So it is definitely a thing, and I think that like more people are talking about it, I guess. And I think also we're having babies later, and also you can test much earlier to see if you're pregnant. Like back in the day, you can do a test 6 days before your period's due and find out if you're pregnant or not.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a factor now. It's very hard for females to have a career and then put that on hold in the perfect baby-making years, maybe you haven't found the right partner, have kids because it's your most fertile time, then go back to your career. Like, how's that supposed to happen?
Yeah, it is difficult, and I'm lucky because I work for myself. I was sort of able to say yes and no to jobs, depending on where I was at. And And also I'm very lucky that we have help on both sides. So, you know, that's very fortunate as well. And daycare and all of it. And the juggle is real. It doesn't matter how many you have or what you're doing. The juggle is real with it.
It's not until you become a little bit older and you have kids yourself that you realise how much the parents back in our day were juggling stuff. Like, man, how could...
Oh my God. Like, I can't... 4 under 4. Like, what were they thinking? They're like, sometimes we'd just lock ourselves in the backyard and drink a bottle of $2 champagne just to get away.
Yeah. And it's, and you and your sisters are all pretty... You're not like your girls who are just sitting in your room doing not much. You're a boisterous bunch too.
We were nuts. We were absolutely nuts. They don't call my dad Poor Kev for nothing.
I remember going to your house one day and it was just all girls.
Was someone nude?
No, probably. But I remember going in there one day and he just sat down and talked to me and he just wanted to talk about footy and stuff.
Yeah,
he was
footy,
just
cricket, horse racing, anything. Boys. Whenever we had parties, Dad's like, we're the boys. Come on, come into this room. Yeah. Want to watch the footy?
Actually, man, he has a pretty impressive career, like in film now. And is he still going? Is he slowing down?
Yeah, well, he has slowed down, but he did a show last year called High Country, which I think was on Foxtel, which was great. And he was like, that took up 9 months of the year, and he was out, at 4 a.m, out in the freezing cold. I think in like Mount Macedon or somewhere, shooting, and he just still loves it.
You've given him a granddaughter. Has he got a grandson?
No, he doesn't. He's got 3 granddaughters.
Really?
Yeah.
So,
but but now the girls play footy. I can see he's rounding up a footy team.
Okay.
Every time we go to their house, he's like, "Now what do you say?" And they're all like, "Go Saints!"
Man,
and Toz is like, "This is child abuse."
I feel that he must be thinking that someone's taking the piss when he's having all girl like granddaughters as well.
Yeah, he loves it though. I know, and one of his daughters is a lesbian. He's like, yeah, like, it's just
who brought another partner?
Yeah,
another
he's
female
like he's like, look, Dal, I'm really happy for you, but not another fucking girl in my house.
Poor Kev.
Poor Kev.
Do you want to tell us about what else is coming up with your sort of comedy career? Like when I say comedy, right?
Career. Well, I haven't earned any money from.
No.
If anyone knows how to monetize it, bring it.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, so do you want to keep just doing the online stuff? Do you want to move into sort of more stand-up shows? What do you want?
I don't know. Like after I bombed on stage and I went into that fight or flight mode, I bombed at the Camberwell Library. I don't know. I honestly, I can't tell you if that's for me or not, because I still shit myself a bit with the public speaking. Like I now feel confident in, my lounge room shooting a reel. But you know what? There was a time where I didn't feel confident doing that, and I've worked through that. So maybe, I don't know, if I can remember a 1 hour.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
Yeah, like how do they remember it? Like remembering like 8 minutes is a lot.
Man, I'll have rappers that come on here and they'll do 4 songs back to back, which is a lot of syllables, and they just go first take bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, how the fuck do people remember that stuff?
Yeah, it's like a part of your brain. I think I'm missing that part of my brain. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy to, I just feel at the moment like just putting myself out there and making people laugh, and it's working, like people are laughing. And no, I'm not making money from it. I make money as a makeup artist. That's what I do as my job still.
Has it helped gaining more clients in that capacity?
No.
Not at all?
I had a client who wanted to use me for a big shoot, and they wanted to use their own people. And she was pushing to have me, and they were like, and this big, the big client was like, all right, well, let's have a look at her Instagram. She's like, oh, no, probs don't. Because it's got nothing, like my Instagram has changed from not a lot of makeup stuff to more comedy stuff. So no, it hasn't really helped my makeup career. However, because I'm so well established, because I've been doing it for 21 years, I feel as though, like I still get work. I get work word of mouth more than anything.
Yeah.
But if I was, like I've gone to a school and talked to kids wanting to do makeup, I say to them, you have to build your social media. It doesn't work the way, like what I did. And same as my dad in directing. You don't just pull cables one day, floor manage the next and direct the next day. It doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah, it was the same. Even from the DJ perspective, it's like have your music there, and because one day the DJ won't turn up if you're working in a nightclub, and then bang, you're in.
Hell no.
Doesn't work like that
No
anymore.
way. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you just have to sort of suit it to what, wherever you're at in your career. But for me with makeup, like, I don't need to do that. It just comes. The work, it's still pretty busy.
Yeah.
It's still very busy,
I
actually.
remember you saying to me like 20 years ago, I'm like, so how do you go doing this? And you go, you just fake it till you make it. I remember you saying
You
that.
do. Well, still, like, I'll always have imposter syndrome. I've tried to really work through that. And now I've got it with the comedy stuff, but I'm trying to, like, calm that down as well.
Yeah.
Where, like, someone will call me and say, hey, you've come highly recommended. We'd really like to use you for, this campaign, this shoot. And I'll be like, today's the day they find out. Everyone's going to know that I'm actually shit and I've tricked them for 20 years. I'm going to be exposed.
Well, you do find that with a lot of sort of people that build an Instagram or TikTok following, they get to a certain stage where they don't know how to take it to that next level. You see it all the time. A lot of people start podcasts, which generally don't stick, or they go, join me on Patreon and follow my journey of what? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's taking it to the next level and figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know where I'm actually going with it all. Basically what happens is I write a script, I get, the whatever the outfits that I need for it or whatever the supplies are, that is the funnest part for me. And then I shoot it. So I drop my daughter at kinder. And I come home and I'm like putting fake tan on, I'm doing the makeup and clipping the extensions in. I shoot it, try and edit it, go pick her up. But the kinder teachers must think I'm absolutely bonkers. And and then I put it out there to the world. That's sort of how I'm doing it. But, time is limited. I have to work because I've got a mortgage and I have a kid. So you just sort of work it around that.
Man. Yeah, it's like the kinder thing. I pick up my kid from kinder and the kinder teacher's like, Mac told us you do a podcast. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, cool. Send me a link to the kinder thing and we'll post it in the newsletter.
Oh,
and I'm like, nah. And then she's like, no, trust me. Like everyone is pretty like-minded. They'll all get it. And I'm like, nah, man.
No, I don't know. I don't know. But a couple of kinder mums have been like, I follow you.
Yeah.
Saw that reel.
That's cool.
I liked it. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's it. But this is the thing, and I often think this now, and all the stupid shit we did when we were kids. Now we can't do that stuff because you don't want it to reflect badly on your kid. You know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
This is the balancing act.
Well, I know that poor Ari, she's going to be like, oh, Mum, what are you doing? I picked her up from kinder the other day and the teacher said, because she sleeps in our bed and I fake tan all the time and it goes on her and it looks like bruises on her. And she told the kinder teacher that I fake tan her every night.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I swear I'm not getting my kid and rubbing her down and tanning her for kinder.
The funny things that kids say, man, they take these little things out of context and can come across the wrong way.
Oh, my God. She's in her poo bum era at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think kids don't grow out of that for a year.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, it's still funny to me. She's like, Mum, drew a picture of you, that's you, there's a bum hole on your head, and you did a wee out of it into your eye. And I'm like, oh, cool.
That's gone on the fridge.
Yeah, and she's frothing by it. And I'm like, okay, cool, man. Who are you?
Well, she's a product of yours.
I made you, I'm sorry. Buckle up.
Kath, it's been a good chat, man. I appreciate you coming in. It's been good to see you.
It's been great to see you.
Yeah.
Can't wait for you to DJ my 40th.
I don't have long. Is that next year?
Yeah, it's 2 months away.
2 months away. Oh, one thing that did make me just think of one last thing. Have you had heaps of people message you haven't seen for 20 years when they see your reels?
Yeah, I have.
I could imagine.
Yeah, it's funny. And a lot of people that I don't know being like, you are me. A lot of girls, I'm like, you are me. And I'm like, babe, we're probably best friends in the toilets. We probably had the best night together.
I fixed your hair extensions.
Yeah, I totally did some makeup on you for sure.
Yeah. That is an awesome thing about doing sort of stuff like this, and when you put yourself out there a bit. I've got people message me that I haven't seen for years. Some you probably don't want to talk to, whatever. But you're like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah,
you get to reconnect.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Kath, I appreciate you coming in and being so honest. The first ever makeup artist we've ever had on this show.
Woo.
And I look forward to seeing more of your reels and comedy.
Yeah, thank you.
Next time you come in, we can talk about you being an established Melbourne comedian.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I'm not ready. The fear. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.